Hi, I'm Kevin, and welcome to Ask a Stoic. Today's question is, what did the Stoics think of women? Of course, there's a concern for equality and equal treatment in modern times, and the Stoics were actually very forward-thinking on this issue. The source that I'm going to use the most for this video is Musonius Rufus and his lectures. He has two lectures, lectures 3 and 4, specifically discussing women in philosophy. The one discusses whether women should study philosophy at all, and then the second is whether daughters should be trained the same as sons as far as education goes. Musonius did believe in a natural division of labor and social roles between the sexes. So if you're looking for a totally subjective view of men and women's roles in society, you probably won't find it there. But Musonius' point are that both men and women are equally equipped with reason. Both are equally able to weigh judgments and impressions. Both have a natural inclination towards virtue, and both can be pleased by good and displeased by vice. His argument is basically that since both men and women are equally presented to the world in terms of rational faculties, senses, body, etc., one doesn't have materially more or less than the other, that it's kind of on the face silly that women should be dissuaded from studying philosophy. If philosophy takes men and makes them good, or good men and makes them better, the same would be true for women, that women would experience the same benefits by sharpening their reason, increasing their faculties, their understanding of virtue. And he sells his audience, which is predominantly male based on my interpretation of the readings, that a woman who studies virtue would make a better partner and wife. So his premise is that women are equally capable of virtuous action and therefore should be trained in it just like men. But he realizes that that might not sell for his particular audience. So he couches it in a particular term that sells the idea that might have been a little bit of hard to chew on for that particular audience. There is something that we have whenever we're looking at classical or ancient writings and we're sort of porting them to modern times. We forget that these writings, whether it's the Bible or the classical Stoics or the Tao Te Ching, they're written for a particular time, a particular place, and a particular people. And there are things which we won't bring forward. You can't really read something without interpreting it. It's really not possible. We're always interpreting. That's part of the hegemonicon, part of our rational faculty. We necessarily interpret. So, for instance, Epictetus discusses that we should treat slaves equally, and we should treat them well. Seneca discusses that a person who treats his slave badly but treats a politician well isn't really a good person, that you need to treat your slave well if you are a good person, right? So we look at that and say, whoa, slavery is abhorrent. How can these people who were so keen on virtue and so right about all of these things be so radically wrong about something that for the modern is as simple and black and white as slavery? There is progress and there are change in ideas. Even the hint that we should treat slaves well was a change probably from the common thought. So we just have to view that in the context in which it occurred. It's not right to expect 100% modern ideas in some of these documents which are 2,000 years old. I think the same is true for how we treat the sexes, genders, any point in between men and women. So the short answer is that Stoicism classically was very forward-thinking for the treatment, the equality, and the nature of women and men. That doesn't mean that it's necessarily perfect. It doesn't necessarily mean that the modern conception is necessarily perfect. There are differences. Hope that answers your question. Remember, you can submit your own questions either here, below the video in the comments, or at mountainstoic.wordpress.com. Click on Ask a Stoic on the left, fill out the form, and submit your questions. And, fate permitting, I'll see you next time. Thanks.